The enemy may take some things, but he can't take my joy. He can't take my faith. So lift up your hands, let your lungs breathe inside, and give him the thanks and glory, and he will make it much better than you could possibly ever know.
Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of All Things with Chanae Lavette, a talk show series where we get into all things lifestyle, wellness, but most importantly, faith. And today we have a very, very special episode. I have an amazing guest with me. She is a wife, a mother, a business owner, a playwright. She really is all the things. And she's my mama, y'all. I'm so happy to welcome to All Things, with All Things Faith with my mama, Cheryl Forshee. So welcome, mama.
Thank you, Chanae.
So, mom, okay. I have this picture of you, right? Like in my head from just childhood. And I always see you as this strong, fierce person, which you are. And I think in part is because I was just a crybaby growing up. And you probably know that yourself because you always be like, always crying or whatever. But I think I compared myself to you so much in terms of feeling as though maybe I wasn't so strong, or I kind of saw myself as weak because you're so strong. So I want to start off and just talk about first and foremost, do you see yourself the same way of a person who is so strong? Or how do you see yourself? Let's start there.
Well, in the beginning, I didn't consider myself very strong. I was more shy, timid, so I wasn't that confident in the beginning. But now, you can't stop me now from feeling that confidence, because I know now, as years went by and being around confident people, it grew inside of me and it became a part of me. So that's where it started. It started in the beginning as somebody very shy, timid, afraid to talk. Didn't think I was capable of anything, but it takes time to develop. And so now that I developed into that woman that God want me to be, it's just come natural now.
So we're going to get into all things faith, right? And so take us back to what you would say is your first time of getting to know God. Like what sparked your faith in the first place?
Well, I grew up in the church. My mom was a minister, so I took my birth with her. And as I grew as a little kid, you want to go to church. You know, some kids be in the house, I don't want to go, but back in the days, you had no choice. So it was my mother that brought me into the faith and the understanding what God is.
And so what would you say developed that faith, though? Because you started off in the church, and a lot of us have, right? I can't tell, we grew up in the church. And I know for me personally, I'm so happy and I'm so thankful to have been exposed to God at such a young age. But the shift in my life really dealt more was when I got to know God for myself and removed, I guess, quote unquote, religion and replaced religion with relationship.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about how did you develop your relationship with God?
It started with reverencing who he is. And as a little girl, I just longed and I just always felt his presence. I remember my mom and them was having a prayer meeting one night, and I was a little girl. And it seemed as though I looked inside of that room, and inside of that room was just like a mist. And it was like a presence of God. I didn't quite understand it, what was happening, but all I could see this fog, this mist that was in the midst of them having church. So that sparked my curiosity of what I was experiencing at that moment. It was probably around about the age of 8.
So, let's go a little deeper. Like in terms of, so we know we got the interest, we know that sparked the curiosity, but describe to me what it was like being, let's see, Cheryl at 19 years old, just married, end up having your first kid or getting pregnant at 20 maybe, or maybe so or not. Explain to me what your faith was like then.
We was young and married, and we was looking forward to life itself. We wasn't expecting to have a baby right away, but she came along, and it was a beautiful experience. But in the midst of the first pregnancy, I had preeclampsia, so they had to induce the labor with her. And she was born 4 pounds and 6 ounces. So that's when the great part of faith came along, because my husband and I knew the danger that we were facing, whether it's my baby's life or my life. So we activated our faith. He prayed us through, and she was born. And she grew, and she was very healthy. That was our first.
But describe that a little more. I mean, give the girls the details now. I don't want the high level answer. Okay. I want more deepness. What does that feel like, though? Like, the idea of having to choose between your baby and your life, but then knowing like, okay, how do I hold on to God in that moment? What would you say built up your faith to believe God that you wasn't going to have to lose your life and your baby life wasn't going to be lost either?
The trust and belief that I have in Him. And I knew that all things are possible. And there's sometimes things come in your life to make you generate that faith, to make it strong inside of you, because you can talk it all day long, but till you face it, that's when it really kicks in. If you don't never face something, you wouldn't know what type of faith you have. So my faith soared. And it's just like we trust and believe that everything is going to be all right. And it was all right.
Hey, friend. I want to pause for a second just to thank you for being here. But there is a chance that you're here and not subscribed. So go ahead and click on that button for me. I'd really appreciate it. But that's really not why I'm here. I'm here because I want to ask you a question. Are you ready to start this year with passion, purpose, and an unstoppable vision? Then I want you to join me at Envision Me Conference 2025, taking place January 10th through 12th at the luxurious Del Mar Hotel in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So picture this. You are surrounded by like-minded souls, all engaged in empowering workshops and being inspired by Power Pack speakers. Sis, at Envision Me Conference 2025, we are making the whole woman whole. That's mind, body, and spirit. So whether you are considering doing a career move, or you need some help crushing those wellness goals, or maybe you just need some good old soul care, Envision Me Conference has exactly what you need. And I want you to run, don't walk. I want you to beat me there, don't meet me there, at Envision Me Conference 2025. Tickets are on sale right now, but I don't want you to think of this as any old ticket. I want you to think of it as an investment in your future, because the vision that God gave you depends on it. Let's get to them goals together. Visit envisionmeconference.com to purchase your ticket today. Now, back to the show. So, speaking on that point, like sometimes I do think about my own life, and I think that when we go through situations and we go through hardships, at times it's very easy to think to yourself that why is this happening to me? Or like, what, like, everything is falling apart. But when I look back on my life now, I do realize that God was building me up to have a greater capacity for things. Because the higher you go in life, the greater your faith the greater faith you need to get that thing. But let's shift a little bit shift a little bit more into when God doesn't necessarily answer your prayer like you think that he should. And so you in particular, you've dealt with a lot of loss in your life. So you lost your dad, at 7?
8 years old.
8 years old. And then you lost your mom as a teenager, right? Or
Right.
20 or just turned 20. And then you lost your older sister. You lost your older brother. You've lost our daddy, which is probably the biggest loss I think we've all experienced. In addition to that, your mother-in-law, his mother, which passed on his birthday. And so, which is like a mother to you as well. And I say all that not to focus on such negativity, but to show that you have experience with something that we all tend to go through, right? Death. It's not signature to our family. Everybody experienced loss in their family. But how are you able to still stand today and to still have faith in God? Because to lose so many of those people in your life, for some people, that would have took them out too. Now they don't want to move on in life. Now they don't want to do X, Y, and Z because my mama not here, my daddy not here. So whichever person you want to start with, like, just let's explore a little bit of how your faith stayed intact throughout all of this.
Well, I'll start with my mom. Watching her go through her sickness. And at one point I wanted to get angry at God because she always was in the church. And then something came over me and said, nah, I'm getting wrong at the wrong person. God got nothing to do with this. So I watched, and I got to the point I said, well, God, if you're going to heal her, heal her. But if you're not desired to heal her, then let her go on home. And I think when I said that and released it, it was the next day it happened. And then I know it was all right.
Your prayers are powerful, must be, huh?
Yeah, it is. And it did happen that way.
But so tell us, how did you stay in faith after the loss of Daddy?
Wow, that's a big one. We was married for 45 and a half years. This year would have been 46 years. We was looking for great things, big things. And we wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting it either. He wasn't coming. He believed that he was coming out of that. We both did. But when it didn't happen the way we wanted to happen, I thought about it. I was quiet. I couldn't understand it. Now, that one hit me out of nowhere. And when I walked out the hospital room and he was lying there in the bed, I glanced over there to it. It felt like I was leaving him behind. He was supposed to walk out the door with me. But in my mind, I wanted the world to see my God. Mm-hmm. I wanted him to turn that thing around. I wanted him to tell the doctor, show the doctor, see, y'all wasn't right about this. We got this. God got us. But it didn't happen like that. Mm-hmm. So I walked out there. I think I walked out the hospital room kind of a little confused. Mm-hmm. A little saddened because he wasn't walking out with me. But as days went by, and it didn't take long, I went before God and I laid before him. I said, God, and I said it just this way, this simple, the pureness. See, God don't want you to be all up here and talking all that deep, Lord, Lord. No, I took it simple. And simple means taking it from your heart. And I said, God, I got to trust you with this one. I got to trust you that this is what you want. And a lot of times we don't understand, but some things pushes you into your destiny.
Right.
So I believe that pushed me into my destiny because I ain't stopped since then.
And what's that? What's your destiny?
To grow into the things of God, seeking his kingdom and his righteousness. Because he told me this, when I do that, everything gonna be added unto me. So I don't have to worry about anything. I don't worry about this. I don't have to worry about that. Because he told me to do one thing, seek after his kingdom. And everything I needed gonna be added to me.
And I'm gonna look at y'all real quick because I want y'all to know that for her to be sitting here saying this, it has to be nothing but God. Because if you saw Glenn, you saw Cheryl. If you saw Cheryl, you saw Glenn. And I might even throw a photo in here so you just understand the level of just intimacy and oneness that they established together. And so the only way that she's able to sit here today and to have a conversation like this, gotta be God.
Gotta be God.
And I struggled so much throughout the process of Daddy being sick. Or I don't know, it's hard sometimes even when I say sick because it felt like he wasn't sick. It felt like
he was full of life.
Yeah, you
full
were just
of life.
fine.
Nothing changed. Nothing changed. He was too full.
Yeah, and I struggled though because I was believing God so much for this Bible story miracle. The type of miracle that you read about, the type of miracle that looks like it's only been done in other countries, somewhere off to somewhere else. Some Lazarus from the dead miracle. I was holding on to the
Girl,
very
let me tell you
end.
something about that. When he had actually passed away, I was in his ear. I said, now you know I can bring you back now. I was saying, you just make me feel like you want to come back. And then I said, nah, don't come back to this. I don't want you back to this. As much as I love you, no.
Yeah, and I just feel like, but I still was holding on to hope and faith so much. And during that time period, I just remember all of us going deeper in prayer like never before. Never before type of prayers that were prayed in that hospital room, that was prayed in the house, just never before done before. And so when God didn't do it like I thought he would do it, I was really hurt. I was really hurt. And I can't tell you that I was angry at God because I believe that he had built me up so much leading up to that moment in my spirit that it wasn't a place of anger as much as it was a place of disappointment. And it's not because I think it's because I believed him too much. I believe, God, you the same God that when Joshua said to stop the moon and to stop the sun, you did that. And so all I'm asking you to do is save my daddy. I didn't ask you to stop no elements in the world, or I just asked you to save my dad. And so in my back of my mind, I kept saying to myself, I know you're capable of this. I know you're capable of this. And a couple of days before his passing or his transitioning, his homegoing, as we like to call it, I remember listening to this Instagram live. And one of the girls that I follow on Instagram, a faith motivational speaker, she had a live and she was talking about, a lot of people claim to say that they want God's will, but, it's Yahweh or it's your way. It's one of the two. And at that time, as she was ministering and saying those things, she was, I would say, talking more so to people who were torn about their lifestyles and such. You either want to do it Yahweh or your way. And it hit me after Daddy transitioned because I realized, Chanae, you kept praying, Lord, have your way, your will. The very last thing that I can audibly remember Daddy saying to me, was when I was singing to him the song, Have Your Way, Have Your Way. And he said it back to me. That was the very last time that I can remember him speaking. And then it hit me all of a sudden a couple of days later as I was just sitting there calling out to God, and I realized I was asking you to have your way. I said, I trust your will. But I was saying that really meaning I wanted my will. I wanted my way. So when you have to really ask yourself, we praying these prayers, but do we mean them? Because what I thought was supposed to be a miracle was a miracle in God's eyes. He knew from his perspective, that's how I wanted the miracle to be done. Because now when people look at Chanae and they look at Cheryl and they see us and it's like, how in the world? That's the miracle. We are the miracle.
We are the miracle. We think it's a miracle going to come in one direction, but it don't. God knows what he's doing. And I'm so amazed of him. I would have never known. You know, sometimes when you're a couple and you talk about, you know, what if this happened, what if happened? I said, oh, this going to happen, I'll be this way. But I wasn't.
Yeah.
It turned my whole life around for the good. Because, you know, a lot of time when people lose somebody, they think they're supposed to die right along. That's not true. I refuse to put on grave clothes.
It's funny, we have this video of you and you're jumping on the couch on your birthday, and so many people wrote me on Instagram about that because I think people expected, like, especially considering how everybody saw y'all, people expected that, oh, your poor mother, what is she gonna be? How is she gonna move? How's she gonna handle the business? Y'all have 2 businesses. How's she gonna handle the business? How's she gonna do this and that? She in this big old house by herself and all these other things. But let's talk about how God did not leave you alone and lost. Like, how have you been managing since Daddy's passing or homegoing?
I've been so much alive. It's a moment that I know who I am now. I always had him guiding, doing this for me. He was such an amazing husband, friend, and he did it all. I really didn't have to do anything. Matter of fact, I stayed home, raised the 10 kids, and I think that gave me an idea how hard to organize you have to with kids of 10 and to put things together. And I was just doing it as a young woman at that point. And he said, you know what? You sacrificed your career to raise the family. I want to give you this dentist office, teeth of rust dental. Everybody a bright smile, teeth of rust. And he said, I want to give this to you as a gift because you sacrificed for the children, for me, and I want you to have something. So that's how it came about. I worked with him in the laboratory, but after going through having babies and stuff, I went back into the field of work, and I never had to really work. So that was a blessing right then in itself. But that's how I began to develop. And now that I don't have him around, he left me in great hands because he was my pastor as well. He left me in great hands, and I often pray and say, Glenn, you left me with the most beautiful, magnificent, great God that you taught me doing ministry. So he developed a lot of my faith. He was so full of confidence.
That lets me know how important it is when it comes down to partnership and finding a spouse, someone who loves the Lord as well, right? Someone who is there and can build up your faith, because not a lot of people can say that at all. Like, how, I know it wasn't like that all the time, right, in marriage, but from my view of what y'all's love was, it just was this beautiful thing. I would say mainly of seeing y'all as a team in the spirit. Like, most definitely. Right? Like when Daddy was in some of his last days, I remember him saying to me, he said, that girl, that girl could pray. And I mean, the way he was saying it, you would think you had on a sexy outfit or something, but the way he was describing it, but that's how he felt. Like that's the type of attraction I think as young people we should look for in people that we're dating. Like, man, that man could pray. He could pray over me. Like, he do this. Like, because people neglect to realize that that's actually what's going to sustain you in life.
A lot of times people think that, how do I pray to a God? How can I talk to the God? Just like you talking to me, that's all he wants you to talk to him. He don't look at you like, oh, I'm the thy God. Nah, he don't look like that. He's just a regular person. I can just kick it with him.
Yeah.
I stay in his presence. I kneel before his presence. I pray because now he have to be my guide now. My Glenn Eldon, he's no longer here to guide me. But he left me with a God. And that is a great God. Oh, I can talk all day long about him now. He lifted my spirit up. Oh my God, he turned my whole life around. And it didn't take a long time to do it.
Right.
One time somebody asked me, how do you remain so many years with one another? And you know what? I told him a simple answer. I looked and I thought, because I wanted it. Because I willed it. Whatever I will, if I fought against the difficulties that I had in marriage, but I wanted it and I willed it. And that's what our vow says, for better or worse. We don't know how the worst is going to come.
Right.
We don't know whether it's going to be sickness. We don't know any of those things. We're walking in faith, and that's what took us through many of our trials is faith. Sometimes when we get in arguments, we never really argue a lot, but when we did. And he would say, girl, you ain't going nowhere, so you might just get on over it. Get it on out you, but you ain't going nowhere. He said, you know what? Matter of fact, your sweetness is my weakness. I turned that sweetness charm and made it weakness. So we had a beautiful life together.
Yeah,
so
did.
That life have ended. That chapter have gone. Now he's pushed me into a whole nother realm. A lot of times people think, that person dead and gone. Oh no. They're not dead. One day I went up to Georgia and I came back and I wrote a poem I like to write. And I said, the poem was, is there life after you're gone? And then at the end of the poem, I told him, I said, I see you in my children. I see you in the home we built. I see you in the gardening around the house that we did together. I see you. So when you don't see their present, just look around. Look in the mirror. You'll see them. They're not gone. They always will be with us.
Yes, that's so true. And so I like to end the episodes with just a moment where you can look directly into the camera and minister to someone that, and for this episode, that might be struggling with loss at this moment. You are the founder of Just Breathe, which is a support group that, well, more than a support group, but it's a group that focuses on just helping you move forward and have hope after loss. And so before we wrap up, just take a good 1 minute to just pour into whoever is on the other end of that camera that needs their spirit lifted.
And she said, just breathe. Take a moment. Realize what happened. Everybody grieve in a different way, but everybody can stand too. I want you to know that there's always hope. Storms do come in the natural, but do they last? That's what you need to ask yourself. Is this storm supposed to last forever? Or just, do you feel like that you're gonna lose them even more when you just don't grieve? No, I don't think your loved one would want you to do that. I think they want you to say, live for me. Do the things that we said we was gonna do together. And see it in my eyes like you seeing it, I'm seeing it through you. So it's always hope. There's always hope, and the most hope comes from the Lord. Just lift up your hands. The enemy may take some things, but he can't take my joy. He can't take my faith. So lift up your hands, let your lungs breathe inside, and give him the thanks and glory, and he will make you much better than you could possibly ever know.
Wow. Thank you, Mama, for joining me. Thank you for being here. And again, please like, subscribe, all the things, do everything. And so until next time, thank you again for joining us on All Things with Chanae Lavette. See you soon.